Well, hello to everybody again. I hope you had a good weekend, that it was as safe and as peaceful and as calm as possible given how strange these days are. And I hope that you still have in place the support that you need. Please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone here at UT, either via me or your TA or Student Emergency Services or the Dean of Students Office, if there's anything UT can help you as we all continue to put up with this very stressful situation. So I want just to jump into what I was playing for you, hoping that in the quiet, lonely, and yes, in some ways very sad world that Marcel Proust shares with us, we'll get a little break from all of the things that are outside, that are causing pressure and strain, and that we can be inspired by the way in which finally, after so many years, he manages to remember one of the beautiful moments from his childhood. So very predictably, I've got a piece of music that I just played for you. So it was a little Ed Sheeran, and I think the idea behind Photograph is perfect. It's about loneliness, it's about love, and then actually it refers to a specific technology that I wanted us to keep thinking about as we meditate on what was going on in the world just a little over 100 years ago, and we make our way into the 20th century. And that is the idea of how do you capture what it is to be human? And perhaps one of the most remarkable things about the 20th century is, like the Zoom that I'm on at the moment, we have virtual selves in circulation, we have photographs. And Proust himself was particularly interested in photography and used photographs as part of his writing process. So what I want to do a little bit is here to introduce you to him, to Paris, to a way of seeing the world, which is important not just to verbal artists, writers like Proust, but to visual artists as well, before jumping into the text. Trying not to keep you for the full 75 minutes, but just giving you some highlights of a text I have always particularly loved. It's one that is not for everyone. It's one, the first time I read it, that I actually didn't quite get it, but I came to be so committed and devoted to it. I actually wrote my master's thesis on it. So it's particular joy and honor to share it with you today. So let's see if I can get some screen sharing working for us here, so that you can share some of these images from Paris and from the beginning of the 20th century with me as we move along. So you're staying in the same town. We're not switching. It's not Petersburg to Paris. We're staying in Paris. But I put you in a very particular part of Paris. You were in Montmartre. You were in the red light district, if you want to call it that, where all of the dubious and exciting artistic and sort of low-life and underworld things were going on in Paris. And so I'm reminding us of this special work with Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec's images of Le Divin Japonais and the Ambassadeur, two of the performance spaces that were particularly popular for people like Baudelaire and some of the other artists. So that's in the east, central part of Paris, but I need to move us to another part of Paris, to the world of the elegant dandies, to the so-called right bank. The Rive Gauche is where all of the artists, all of the alternative types are living. That's where I lived when I was living in Paris, all 3 times, in fact, so clearly boho was my style. But we're now going to be on the right bank. The Rive Droite. This is the fancier, the posher, the more modern part of Paris. This is the world that Proust and his family live in. Giovanni Boldini, this wonderful artist, created an image of the Comte de Montesquieu Frère Janac, who actually appears as one of the characters in the story. Already you've met Monsieur Charlus by name. He shows up if you read every word. If you don't remember him, please don't worry. I'm not emphasizing him. I want to think about the narrator. I want to think about his mother, I want to think about his father, and about his auntie, who becomes so important at the end, Tante Léonie. So we're in a very different world here, and Marcel Proust really is one of these dandies. Upper middle class, from an important and visible Jewish family, living in one of the most fashionable neighborhoods of Paris. And he preserves himself very systematically. Here, with the same photographer, Paul Nadar, you recognize the name from Baudelaire before. So here is the image of Proust as a man, Jacques-Émile Blanche, indicating again the affluence of the family. This is an actual painting of Marcel Proust. And it's fun actually to put together these painted images done by an artist like Blanche, and the ones that are from photography, those that Proust himself set up. So I want to continue images of Proust. Again, this notion of what is it like to live in the modern world? Are you with people or are you alone? Are you companioned? Are you with a kind of fellowship, or are you left in a position of isolation? Proust has himself portraited by Nadar with these little picture cards, both in a solitary, lonely, kind of pensive, reflective and philosophical mood. But he also has himself portraited with his best friends from high school. These are precisely the young men, particularly it would have been gendered in the day, precisely the kind of young men that Baudelaire wrote his poetry for, and that the City Council of Paris wanted no possible contact between them and this new avant-garde artistic scene. So again, we go from who is it who wrote Gilgamesh? We have absolutely no idea, to knowing who were the best high school friends of the writer once we make our way to 1900. So I want to use a particular street in Paris. It's the kind of street that Proust is living on. It's the kind of street that his apartment is on, which we'll get to just in a little while. This is one of the Grands Boulevards, the big boulevards that were built in the 19th century to house the newly affluent imperial and colonial society of Paris. So the Boulevard Montmartre really looks like this. This is a postcard. It's a photograph that's been hand tinted so that it has color to it in exactly around 1900, so the period of this text. Here's the Boulevard de Montmartre in a photograph. I now want to use a particular artist, Camille Pissarro, who is famous for his urbanscapes. He does gorgeous images of all kinds of places. He does do the countryside, but most of his images are of the town. And it's the same street, so you recognize it from the photograph, but I want to show you a suite of paintings that Pissarro does. So this is the Boulevard de Montmartre in the morning with gray weather. Very subtle, very flat kind of colors, a fair number of people, but still not much traffic in the road. From exactly the same window vantage point, Pissarro again does the Boulevard de Montmartre, this big shopping street, and instead wants us to think about what it looks like in the afternoon, in sunshine. Far more traffic, far more people. People are out bustling around, being lively, being part of the vibe of the city of Paris, and we have this gorgeous summery afternoon. But if you know anything about Paris, especially once you get to the summer, a bit like Texas, if it gets a bit warm, you're going to end up with a thunderstorm. So this is the same street, Boulevard de Montmartre, in the afternoon, but now it's raining. Now a thunderstorm has come and we get these gorgeous images of the reflections of the carriages, and everyone now has their umbrellas up. Finally, he gives us, and maybe this is the most experimental, Boulevard Montmartre at night. All the lights are lit up in the houses. There are a few people still walking on the sidewalks, and all the carriages, or the taxis, if you like, are lined up here, waiting to collect people to take them to and from their various activities. Pissarro is one of the Impressionist painters, and behind his interest in painting is not only the Impressionism, that is to say, the idea of using this imprecise technique that's not like photographs, it's not exact, it's not perfect, it gives you an impression of things. Actually, Impressionism was an insult. You didn't have time to do a real painting, you just gave us an impression. But there's another part to the Impressionist movement. Not only is it quick, not only is it touches of paint rather than being fully rendered, it's also capturing a particular moment. For Pissarro, it was crucial to keep painting the same place, the exact same vantage point, but at very different moments. Like Goethe's Faust, that beautiful moment is what matters to Pissarro. So this is 1897, this is a long time ago, but the great American filmmaker Woody Allen actually shares with us something that's very much in this style about how to experience the city of Paris. So I want to share it with you as a kind of present, maybe a little escape, a gift from all that's worrying us just nowadays, even though Paris, like all the big cities in the world, especially has suffered a great deal and continues to suffer. So it's one of my hometowns. It's one of the places that I grew up. And the view that you're looking at here is one that's not far from one of the apartments I lived in. So it's slow. It's got a beautiful piece of music. I want us just to take a moment with the opening of Midnight in Paris. This is Woody Allen's film from a few years ago. For Woody Allen, as well as for Proust, I'm going to suggest a couple of things matter. Paris, a beautiful city, of course, is different at every moment. And it makes sense to pay attention to remark every moment. And the second thing, and that's why I wanted to play you the whole opening in real time, that's a slow opening to a movie. So not only does each moment deserve to be viewed, to be heard, but each moment deserves to be viewed and heard slowly. The first time I read Proust was in an undergraduate seminar in French. It was super hard. I was absolutely appalled by how difficult it was, and I didn't like it much. The second time that I read Proust as a graduate student, I found myself in New York a couple of weeks before the semester started. Nobody had given me my scholarship check. I had no money or anything to do. All I had was a copy of Proust. So I lay down on the floor because it was cooler on the floor than sitting up in my apartment on the Upper West Side. And I simply started to reread it. I gave it the time that it deserved. So in the midst of all your busy lives, you may not have given it the time, you may not have had the time to give to it, but it is a text that requires spending some real labor